The delightfully surprising success story that is Sea Salt Eatery, beginning as it did as a grill of questionable legality selling hot dogs outside the aging pavilion, then becoming 20 years later a financial juggernaut with lines out the door for fried fish tacos and a cold mug of beer, can be traced back to a singular event, a bad breakup.
Thanks for listening to Read Minnesota Books. I'm your host, Deborah Copperrood. This is a special summer episode with the authors of Sea Salt Eatery, Recipes to Enjoy Year-Round, Gail Rosenblum and Kait Ziemer-Davis. Gail is an author and a former editor and columnist for the Minnesota Star Tribune. Kait Ziemer-Davis is the co-owner of Sea Salt, and Sea Salt is the beloved seasonal restaurant at Minnehaha Regional Park, the site of Minnehaha Falls, the biggest waterfall in the city of Minneapolis. Gail and Kait, welcome to Read Minnesota Books.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
What is your connection to Minnesota?
Okay, you should start.
Okay, I'll go first. I've lived in Minnesota my whole life. I grew up in Detroit Lakes, Minnesota, and I lived there until I was like 17, and then I made my way down to Minneapolis. I landed here finally, I think, when I was 20. Spent a little time in St. Cloud, but we don't need to reference those years too heavily.
And Gail, how about you?
Yeah, so I'm a native of New Mexico, actually. I grew up in Albuquerque, moved here in my late 20s. I've been here about 40 years now, love it very much. And I joke that now that I've been here 40 years, I'm almost from here. I've been here another few decades and I'll be from here. Love it very much. My kids all are from here, which makes me, very rooted. And my oldest daughter, Sydney, is married to Kait. So Kait is my cherished daughter-in-law, which is the connection we have, the familial connection we have to the cookbook.
I love that. And you are my first co-author guests on the
Ah.
podcast
Oh,
and my
cool.
first mother-in-law, daughter-in-law pair
I
too.
don't think there's probably a lot of us, I'm guessing.
So tell me about your book, Sea Salt Eatery.
We decided a few years back now. Gail, I think, was maybe over at our house,
Yeah.
and I was mentioning to her that Sea Salt was coming up on 20 years, and the journalist in Gail, I think, started going with that and kind of pitched the idea of doing this cookbook together. And what I think is so cool about it is that it is a cookbook. It does contain recipes that we hope that people will make at home, but also Gail's portion of it is definitely my favorite part, which is just the prose and the story of sea salt and how it came to be what people know it as now, because it certainly didn't just pop up out of nowhere in this final finished form that it is. And so we worked on that together, and I got to introduce Gail to some of the people who have been around for so long, and then also just kind of give her some names of people who I didn't even know that well coming into it. So that was so fun to get to see her create these new connections with people who were key players way back when.
And what was the co-author collaboration process like?
It was, well, delightful for me. I had so much fun working with Kait and just was so taken by, really humbled by the ability to walk into her world, the world of the restaurant, which is kind of a magical, chaotic place, and to see literally behind the scenes. Like I was in, freezers and near the fryers and talked to many people who have worked there over the years and the people who helped it become this juggernaut that it is. So for me as a journalist, it was just a very exciting, adventure really to dig into all the history. But also, I adore my daughter-in-law, and just to watch her in this world, which is hard. It's a hard world, and to see her, just navigate it with a lot of patience and humor was especially fun. And as Kait mentioned, she did send me off to interview the key players who are in the cookbook. So pretty much everybody who is featured in the cookbook was really thanks to Kait for saying, this is someone you want to talk to. And as I dug deeper and deeper, it just got richer and richer, and I just kept finding more and more gems and a lot of funny stories from the historical society about the building and where way back 100 years ago. So it just became kind of bigger and better than I even anticipated. And then Kait can tell you sort of, while I was kind of off doing that, Kait and her team were, working with University of Minnesota Press to figure out which recipes do you select for home cooks. And that process, took much longer than my process. And I think Kait can tell you about that.
Much longer.
You had to test everything. You had to test everything
Just
again.
like in terms of the experience of working with Gail, is I think it's so cool because we both got a pretty, I wouldn't even say a peek into each other's world. We were both kind of immersed in each other's world. I had no idea what I was getting myself into, to be totally honest, but I'm so glad that I did. And like, also it's just so much, what a fun project. I don't think that there are many, mother-in-laws get kind of a bad rap, but getting to do this with Gail and getting to see her navigate us through this world that I have no idea about was just such a treat and so much fun. And then in terms of the writing, the recipes, that was also so much fun. I love writing. It's something that I used to probably do a lot more of, and getting to send my little headers and whatnot to Gail over for editing was just, that was such a fun project in and of itself. That piece for me was writing the headers and going through them with Gail was definitely my favorite part of the whole writing experience.
And you know what? I would add that you are such a good writer. And I don't know if I would have known that really. So the headers that Kait's referring to are in sort of these lead-ins to many of the recipes. And I think what's special about this cookbook in a lot of ways is that it feels so personal and it's a family, and it comes out in the writing. And so Kait was talking about sort of, how certain recipes came to be, and and the funny stories around them, and her writing was, I barely touched it really. I would just tweak it, but it was another addition to a kind of unsuspecting, it's a surprising addition to what was already a really fun cookbook, was to learn the stories behind some of the recipes, and she just did it really well. And I think John Blood, I think the original dreamer, John Blood also, I think, has a couple of pieces in there as well, write-ups as well.
Yeah, this is the type of cookbook where even if you're not going to make the recipe, it's fun to read
Thank you.
through the recipe. I think a lot of folks maybe on the coasts would dismiss Minneapolis as a seafood city. Um, but there's a lot of seafood restaurants here. You write about how Americans tend to go out to restaurants for fish and seafood rather than making it at home, which totally describes myself. But I do enjoy eating it in restaurants. Can you talk a little bit about how Sea Salt, the restaurant, fits into the whole Twin Cities seafood scene?
Yeah, I think going back, like, you can't talk about sea salt without, I think, talking about the early years of coastal seafoods, and Suzanne Weinstein bringing so much of her dreaming into the Minneapolis food scene. The other night we had a launch party for the cookbook, and somebody asked a similar question in terms of getting seafood in landlocked Minneapolis or Minnesota, and John Blood gave what I thought was just such a perfect answer of, because of actually where we are and having so many airline hubs coming through here, that we actually often are getting just as fresh, if not maybe fresher, seafood than some of those coastal places. Obviously, if there's a restaurant that is catching their own fish and serving it daily, yes, that's going to be a quicker timeline. But we're actually really lucky in where we're located that it is such a major hub, getting fresh seafood in daily. And then I think just the sea salt is so approachable, and I think that comes through. You might find some kind of wild things on our specials menu, and we serve raw oysters, which are maybe a little bit can be a little intimidating for people, but then we also have just fried fish, and I think Minnesotans love a good fish fry, and so we try to take that with just as much care and seriousness as any of the other specials that we're putting through. But I think just the fact that it's a casual atmosphere, we're in a park, it's a great, I think it's a great gateway for people who are maybe a little bit nervous to try new fish or things that they can come there. And we're really honored that people trust us as much as they must to keep showing up time after time, summer after summer.
Yeah, totally. So for the home chef who maybe only makes salmon in the air fryer or heats up fish sticks during Lent, which recipe do you recommend starting with in your cookbook?
I would start with, if you are a person who ever like fires up your grill and makes some burgers or some hot dogs, I would start with the ahi tuna burger, because
Mm.
it's so simple, it's so easy to make, but the product I think will like wow you enough that you're going to try some other things in there and be like, "Oh my gosh, I was able to do this with my Weber grill and 20 minutes of prep time." I think I can venture into some of these that might seem a little bit more intimidating, but really every recipe in there is incredibly doable from your home kitchen.
And where would you buy? So I live in South Minneapolis. Where would you go to buy the tuna steaks?
I would go I would always recommend to people to go to like a local fish market. So we're lucky, we have coastal seafoods here.
Yeah.
There's Brookie's Market, which is in the like Texatonka area. I think it's the same for people. As I would also recommend that people do that with their meat. If you're going to cook a really good steak, go to a little meat shop and talk to a person who that's their specialty. I think that's a big part of it too, is that cooking, even if you're just going to be cooking for yourself, if you go and chat with somebody about what you're getting, what you're making, what's fresh that day, like you've already had this community experience, even if you go home and have your meal with you or your partner.
Those are good recommendations. Thank you. What is your favorite Minnesota cookbook?
I love cookbooks so much. My really good friend Hunter Golden, who's got a couple of recipes that he and I came up with together. He was the sous chef at New Scenic Cafe for a while, and he brought me there. I think they might now have two cookbooks, and I have the first. I have the first one. I'm pretty sure I'm right on that there are two, but he brought me one of those like 2 years ago, and I definitely, that helped me with a lot of inspiration just on just writing the recipes, the way that they explain things that might be a little bit complicated but really aren't. So yeah, I would say the New Scenic cookbook is my favorite Minnesota.
Great, thank you. And how about you, Gail?
Yeah, okay, I have two. My first is Sea Salt Eatery, recipes to enjoy year round. And I'm going to go very, very mainstream with mine. I was thinking about this question, and so I worked at the Star Tribune for years, and so they had their holiday cooking, their holiday baking competition every year, and for people to bake the holiday cookies. And so my good friends at the Star Tribune, Lee Dean, Rick Nelson, and photographer Tom Wallace, just came out with the Ultimate Minnesota Cookbook, 100 Best Recipes for their holiday cookie contest. And it just makes me so happy because in the years that I worked there as a feature writer, every year in November they would bring out all the winning cookies, and we had to really sacrifice and eat them all, you know? And so I'm so proud of them because it's such a, it's just a mega hit, obviously. And just, I have a connection, obviously, to those folks, but it's it's not sophisticated like Kate's choices with with seafood books, but it is super fun.
I have that one, and my kids and I made it's called like a hot chocolate cookie
Oh
recipe
yeah.
from
Oh
that
yeah.
is like gonna be a annual favorite.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So much fun and great people behind it, obviously.
So, are you on social media? Tell me about Sea Salt and yourselves and
Hmm.
how people can find you online and find more info about the recipes and maybe book events.
Oh yeah. Go ahead,
We
Kate.
Sea Salt is online on both Instagram and Facebook. Sea Salt Eatery. It's a very original screen name. So that's where you can find all your info about both cookbook events and general sea salt events and frequently asked questions and whatnot.
And I'm on GailRosenblum.com. I'm on Facebook, Instagram. I'm updating it all with all of our fun sea salt events. And if we could just tell you on August 6th, Kate and some of her fellow chefs are going to be doing a cooking demonstration at Cooks of Crocus Hill in St. Paul. That's August 6th from 6 to 8. And then she mentioned Brookie's, and on August the 8th, which is a Saturday, from 2 to 4 p.m. We're going to be at Brookie's for a meet and greet and signing books. And so it might give people, your listeners an opportunity if they haven't been to Brookie's in St. Louis Park to drop by. It's a super fun fish market, and they might, find something there that they can go home and cook that night.
Yeah, perfect. That's great. Well, thank you so much for being here on Read Minnesota Books. I really enjoyed the cookbook and speaking with you about it. And I was just at Sea Salt yesterday for the Minnehaha
Art
Arts
fair.
art
Mhm.
fair, and that was
Yeah.
really fun. And I just got to experience the whole
It was a wild
atmosphere.
weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's
So
awesome.
thank you.
Thank you, Deborah. It was
Well,
so
thank
much
you
fun
so
to be
much.
with you.
Now for my recommendations. Support local media. I reviewed Sea Salt Eatery for Racket. I'll link to that article in the show notes. It includes a recipe for Thai lettuce wraps from the Sea Salt Eatery cookbook. And if you like it, consider becoming a Racket member so you can read more independent journalism. You can also listen to me on the latest Bookcast episode of Racket's podcast. And that's it for this summer special episode of Read Minnesota Books. Please give us 5 stars on your Apple Podcasts app if that's where you're listening. Thanks. Take care.